Hey guys, good morning. It's Tony. Before I start the video, like always, please subscribe, like, and comment. If you would like to join the Patreon, it's at www.patreon.com/but I'm not a trader. Right now, it is $10 a month before I migrate to my website, and then after I migrate to my website, everything is going to be moved over, and I will be switching it to a one-time payment of $750 or possibly higher, up all the way up to $1,000. I don't know yet, but as of right now, it is a market opportunity, cost for everybody. We just hatched. Big shout out to Steve on the Patreon, who just cleared 114K profit week this past week, which is absolutely ridiculous. So good job to him. Good job to everybody else. Everybody else is killing it. So super awesome job to him. But yeah, if you want to join the Patreon right now, it's definitely much cheaper right now than it will be in the future after my website is finished. Right. So with that being said, somebody did request Apple. I'm just gonna go through it really quickly. I already preset all the support and resistance on the weekly. Keep in mind, this is the weekly. I don't really like using the 4-hour, the dailies, because it gets too convoluted. You get the chart gets really messy, and I don't really like messy charts. So I generally only really like bigger. I only like bigger time frames, right? It's a lot easier to maintain. So with that being said, let's actually set up this chart, because I think we're pretty easy. It's pretty easy right now to tell what kind of a minor trend we are, right? So again, minor trend on the hour. Sorry, pretty sure that's a 4-hour trend. Yeah, got it. Pretty sure it's a 4-hour trend. I think we have another one on the daily, which is right. Another one on the daily right here, I think. Yeah, pretty sure this is on the daily. So let's do this. That's fine. Where is the stochastic? Somewhere here. Probably that low. So your major trend is actually right here, right? So this is actually your major trend. There you go. Let me see if I want to delete that. So you are on, yeah, we'll leave it here. I don't want to change. Yeah, that's fine. I want to stick to just the major trend. So as of right now, it does look like, that's actually who I'm doing the TA for. So what is it? I forget. It doesn't even show his name. That's my daughter. Yeah. So as of right now, Apple, it does look like you're gonna keep running and pushing to 176. You do have this gap to fill at 166. Keep in mind, though, that you did close a daily bear trigger. They haven't really been that responsive. They have been responsive, right? Close, drop a day. Close, keep dropping for about 4 days, right? Close, 4 days or 3 days. Close, drop, push, and you actually just close another one. So I do think, as of right now, you've hit a peak, and you're probably going back to like 170. The weekly also just closed bearish, but keep in mind that it hasn't been responsive, right? On the weeks of, you actually have dropped a nice chunk, right? So from these highs of 156 all the way down to 147. So a full $10 drop, but keep in mind, you haven't been doing that recently, right? You just traded sideways here, and again, you just had another bear week trigger. So coming into this next week, I am extremely bearish on Apple, but it hasn't been responsive to any weakness, right? That's basically it. It hasn't been responsive to any weakness, and that's essentially what my triggers show. It shows weakness, and it shows you when people, or when maybe it's a good time for everybody to start coming into like shorts or longs, right? And that's essentially it. Right now, this coming week, I am extremely bearish on Apple. And by extreme bearish, I mean that it'll probably come back to 170, because that's exactly what it's been doing. It's been dropping just a couple points, right? Like 167 to 162, like maybe 3-4 points. So a $3 point drop from here. Let me see, 174 to here. Yeah, like a $4 point would probably put you back at 170. If you actually end up closing, this, here we go, right here at 167. If you actually end up closing that gap here, you're looking at breaking this major trend, right? But again, it actually broke this. Well, actually, it didn't, right? It actually came down. It did not break this major trend, and it came right back up. So you can tell on the 4-hour that it didn't break it, right? Look at this. On the 1 hour, you did break it. You came up, and you just kind of stayed on top of that range. But on the 4-hour, you didn't actually break it. You actually came down, closed on the trend, and then the next bear candle, you actually came right back up, and you actually came off of that 165 and bounced. So my guess, right, because Apple's been so crazy strong, is I think you actually close this gap this upcoming week at 166, come all the way down to 165, possibly back to this trend here, and then pop right back to this 173 to retest and then drop and stuff, right? But that's because we are on a bear week, so I have to be bearish. And if you keep it, maybe if you just look at the previous times we've closed the bear week, right? Again, the last two times we failed, right? The last two times we failed, but that's because the S&P 500 hasn't been on a bear trigger. We just got a bear trigger on the weekly for the SPX. So I mean, look at this, right? Every single time we've closed a perfect entry on the weekly for a bear trigger, right? We've dropped significantly on Apple, right? $36 in 50 days, right? Again, $26 in 29 days. Let's go with this. $42 in 63 days. And $32 in 70 days. So for the next roughly, let's say 2 months, right? I'm extremely bearish on Apple, just for the fact that we finally got the S&P 500 to close that bear week, right? So if there was any time for Apple to drop, I think it's gonna be now. So I wouldn't run this all the way up to 176, and if we do, I would short the hell out of 176 because you do have major weekly resistance there. So what I think is probably gonna happen, I think the most likely scenario is you come down here, fill that gap, come and retest, and then you start that descent, right? That's what I'm guessing. But if Apple does come up and shoot up to 176, I am 100% going to start my shorts at 176 because I 100% do not think it's going to break that 176 resistance on the weekly, while everything else is going to start to dump. So I do not think Apple's actually going to break that. And for comparison, we can look at Microsoft, right? Microsoft has not been wanting to break this trend here for about roughly, you've been trading sideways since April 28th, right? So now about a month, well, not about, like 2 weeks, right? You've essentially been just in this range here. And on the weekly, you actually just closed a bear week. So I 100% also think that Microsoft is going to come back to this trend here at like 236, which is roughly like a 23% drop. So I do think, in the next maybe 60 days, right? Let's go to 60, right? Like right there, sure. So I do think it's going to drop around 70 points in the next 60 days. So keep in mind, I do think Microsoft is going to drop. Microsoft is giving a really good resistance here. And the only thing that I can really compare Microsoft to is Apple, right? Google is on a completely different level. I think Google's actually going to keep going to 122 and then drop, but I think the news on the AI stuff really helped them out like crazy. So Google did a fantastic job, I guess, on their presentation. But again, this is what I think is going to happen at Apple. I would 100% start shorting here, maybe get some long dated, if you guys are doing options, right? Again, your money, do whatever you want. Me personally, I would probably get like options for like 2-3 months out on puts, probably at the money, or like 170s, 160, 169, somewhere around this range, right? Above 165 for sure, right? So anything between 165 to the current price is open for put strikes, just because I like more safety. But I do think that eventually in about 2 months, we'll probably end up back at like 155, because all the other big tech is starting to show what's really happening, overall, right? Again, Nasdaq is still on a bear week, right? Keep in mind, last time all we did was just kind of trade sideways, and this time again trading sideways and up, but everything's starting to show a little bit of weakness right now. I'm trying to see exactly what's gonna happen, but you do have like Google running like crazy, and I think you have Nvidia starting to show a little bit of weakness, even though it's on a bear week trigger, right? So Nvidia's been on a bear week since April 3rd, and it's really just been pushing to the upside, and it does not want to drop. But again, I think Apple and big tech is really the only thing holding up the market. And if Apple starts dropping, it's a really, really, really big sign that big tech is going to get extremely weak, because Apple is essentially the strongest company in the S&P 500 and in the stock market. So if Apple goes, so is everything else. I'll see you later. Bye bye.